So, I was in the market for a laptop, but none seemed to match the exact specs I wanted without being crazy expensive, so I settled for a custom configured one from the guys over at Metabox. This is the Alpha-X NH58RC, which isn't exactly a catchy name, but like most laptops, these are rebrands of a base Clevo unit that Metabox then customises with your chosen configuration. My setup is a 15.6-inch 1080p 144Hz IPS screen upgraded from the standard 60Hz screen, an i7-9750 6-core 12-threaded CPU with a base of 2.6 and a max turbo of 4.5 GHz, a single 16GB stick of DDR4 RAM at 2666MHz, a 6GB GTX 1660 Ti GPU which is a desktop grade, not a Max-Q as far as I'm aware, a 512GB Intel 660p NVMe M.2 SSD, and I upgraded the Wi-Fi module from the standard Intel 9462 to the 9560 module. I chose not to include a copy of Windows 10 and instead install it myself, but Metabox thankfully includes on their website a complete archive of drivers and software for your laptop that you can install to get the most out of it if you choose to go this route, but I would still recommend at least downloading the latest graphics driver off Nvidia's website. Funny story, Metabox forgot to upgrade the Wi-Fi chip during production, but a few emails and a week of shipping later I got the right chip and Metabox even allowed me to install it myself without voiding warranty, which is good to know that I didn't have to send the whole unit back. This whole configuration set me back 1,899 Aussie dollars, which is cheaper than some other brands on the market, but I do wish Metabox would offer a better payment plan service like Zip Money instead of a Sky credit card, so it's best to buy these outright if you can. Let's move on to the tour. On the left hand side from left to right we have a Kensington lock, a large exhaust vent, one USB 3.1 Type A, one USB 2.0 Type A, and 3.5mm headphone and mic jacks. On the right is another USB 3.1 Type A, mini DisplayPort 1.2, a full-sized SD card slot reader, and another exhaust vent. Around the back is another exhaust vent, USB 3.1 Gen 2 Type C with DisplayPort 1.3 but sadly no Thunderbolt, HDMI 2.0, Gigabit Ethernet port, power input, and on the far right is a fake exhaust for aesthetics as that area is actually where the battery is. Around the front is pretty bare, apart from on the right is 4 status LEDs that light up green. The top is very simple, being just metal with the Metabox logo in the centre and a strip of white light either side which is actually the screen's backlight shining through. Underneath we have access to the removable 49W lithium-ion battery, meaning you can have a few of these on hand for a longer gaming or editing session. Most of this area that looks ventilated is purely design aesthetics with only a few of these lines actually being for air intake. There are 4 rubber feet which do a great job of holding the laptop in place and raise it up enough to suck some fresh air in. You can remove the plastic bottom by unscrewing 15 screws, 3 of which are hidden in the battery compartment to reveal a very upgradable inside. There is a spare M.2 slot as well as the 2.5-inch hard drive bay, the Wi-Fi module, the single stick of memory with room for a second, and finally 2 plastic cooling fans with 2 heat pipes each, sharing between both the CPU and GPU, allowing both to have 3 of the heat pipes touching the heatsink. Opening it up we see the 15.6-inch IPS screen, meaning vibrant colours and great viewing angles, with only thin plastic bezels around 3 of the sides, but a fairly big chin bar with Metabox branding. Unfortunately it cannot be opened with the one finger lift trick as most of the weight is towards the back, but the hinges are out towards the edges, meaning minimal screen flex apart from in the middle. There is a 720p 30fps webcam located at the top centre of the screen, which can best be described as okay, but the microphone isn't too bad. I'm one of these people that would prefer to save a buck and have no webcam at all to be included, but that's personal preference. The keyboard feels great to type on, with practically no wobble or flex, and all the keys feel nice and responsive, even the power button. Easily the best typing experience I've had on a laptop. Here is a typing test. The keyboard has some fairly basic lighting software to go along with it, where you can assign a single static colour with 4 levels of brightness, and the lighting itself is okay, nothing really fancy. The trackpad is a fairly decent size, which I had no issues with tracking, and I also appreciate having dedicated left and right buttons that are separate from the trackpad itself. One thing that irks me about this trackpad though is that it's off-centre, being positioned more to the left, which is more of a me problem than an actual complaint. The speakers are unfortunately downward firing, which is my least favourite configuration as you lose a lot of clarity by how you have the laptop sitting and on what surface you are using, but they are at least plenty loud for a bit of Netflix. Something I did notice is where the metal meets the plastic trim on both these front edges, it sits up slightly, which is actually quite sharp, especially if you go to rest your palms here. Size wise, the laptop is 362mm long, 253mm wide, and 34mm high. Weight wise, with my configuration it's just over 2 kilos, and with the 180W power brick on top it comes to just under 2.7 kilos, which is not something you probably want to lug around all day. Rightio, before we get into benchmarks we have to talk about clock speeds. The CPU idled at about 800MHz, but under a gaming load it was 4GHz, and a rendering or AIDA64 load dropped it down to 3.6GHz across all cores. The GPU seemed to fluctuate between 1725MHz and 1740MHz across all benchmarks and stress tests. All gaming benchmarks are run at 1080p with the settings used listed under the game's title, and of course, the laptop was plugged into a wall socket during testing. I also did a DaVinci Resolve 16 4K 60fps B-RAW with a quick color grade applied 1 minute render test in which the laptop managed to achieve a time of 3 minutes and 3 seconds. Cinebench R20 is up next, where it managed to score a 444 points on the single thread benchmark and 2864 on the multi. It's time to talk about battery life, and with the screen brightness set to 50%, the laptop lasted about 1 hour and 10 minutes while editing in DaVinci Resolve 16. 45 minutes while gaming with Nvidia Optimus disabled and using the dedicated GPU, and about 3 hours web surfing and watching Netflix or YouTube. Metabox includes a few different softwares in their Control Center 3.0 package, which includes Power Mode, which allows you to change the power levels of the laptop depending on the tasks with 4 profiles which are power saving, quiet, entertainment, and performance. Performance, of course, gives it everything, allowing the fan to ramp up to 100% and uses every bit of available power, which makes the laptop incredibly loud. Take a listen. The next program is the keyboard LED software. Basic, but it works. Next is FlexiKey, which allows you to create macro key profiles, and oddly enough, test your key presses per minute. Finally, we have fan speed control, which as the name suggests, allows you to customize the way the two fans react under different load scenarios. Let's talk temps for a sec. The CPU idled at 48 degrees and maxed out at 71 degrees under a 20-minute AIDA64 stress test, but reached 91 degrees during a combined CPU and GPU test. Speaking of the GPU, that idled at 46 degrees C and reached 66 degrees after 20 minutes of Unigine Heaven 4.0 and maxed out at 75 degrees during the combined test, which is not bad at all. In conclusion, I feel something like this is the better option over a pre-spec'd unit as you can really customise it to your likings to make it a fully fledged gaming laptop, a capable editing machine, or somewhere in between. It's great to see there is room for expansion and you're not restricted by stupid things such as soldered on memory modules or lack of additional storage options. This laptop is capable, affordable for its specs, and customisable, which are things you should never take for granted. So I would strongly recommend looking on websites like Metabox if you're after a laptop, so you can really tailor it to your needs. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, and if you really enjoyed it, please consider subscribing for more reviews and other content in the future. If you have a suggestion, question, or criticism, leave a comment. Thanks very much for watching.